Let us set the scene. The Chimera Ants have arrived and given birth to Meruem in the world of My Hero Academia. Normally, this leads to the death of a lot of people, and who better to step in and save the day than a young Prime All Might? Would All Might, the symbol of peace, be able to take down the terrifying king of the Chimera Ants, Meruem? Let us analyze their abilities, skill sets, and do some calculations to find out who would win this matchup. Just to make note, we are going to be using Prime All Might to make this battle interesting, and we will use Pre-Rose Form Meruem for the first round and Rose Form Meruem for the second. But before we begin, please make sure to like and subscribe, as that would mean a lot to me, and comment below which character you believe represents the title the strongest more effectively. Let us begin by analyzing Prime All Might first, so we can utilize his values for both rounds. All Might has a quirk passed down to him called One for All, which grants him extreme physical prowess. With this, he quickly became the strongest hero, and has never failed to save someone once he has entered the scene. Because of his strength, he cannot carry any equipment because they just break, so normally he only utilizes straight up hand-to-hand combat. A few attacks he has which breaks this mold are attacks he uses to create pressurized winds for long distance strikes, or to create whirlpools, which gives him a further reach. Now let us calculate his values. In a previous video, I gave 3 values for his strength because I couldn't decide which was the most accurate, but for this video I will choose the middle of the road so as to not seem biased in any way. This value is obtained from calculating the energy of his United States of Smash and then multiplying it by 60 so that we account for his fallen power at the time that the strike was launched. Doing so, we obtained a value of 7.07 times 10 to the power of 15 joules, or about 1.7 megatons of TNT. Naturally, since his arm wasn't destroyed from launching that punch, that would also mean that the value calculated for his strength applies to his durability. And for his speed, All For One mentions it took him 30 seconds to travel 5 kilometers in his weakened state, which is about 167 meters per second, which we will assume his combat and movement speed are equivalent. However, after adding on the 60 times multiplier to account for his prime, we get a speed of 10,000 meters per second. And that is practically all we have from All Might, since he doesn't really have any other hacks abilities to mention. Moving on to Pre-Rose Meruem is a little tricky since he never fully exerts himself within the series or in any way such that we can quantify. Meruem, being the king of the Chimera Ants and born from feasting on humans with Nen, is the strongest character we have seen within the anime so far. At this point in time, he doesn't really have any hacks abilities himself, as he is a hand-to-hand combat fighter with no real significant long-range attacks and only relies on his overwhelming physical prowess. But one thing he does have that sets him apart is superhuman levels of intellect, able to learn strategy games within a few hours, and then beat world champions within a few games of practice. But seeing as that is all there is, let us get to some calculations, which, as I mentioned, are going to be tricky. To calculate his speed, we are going to use his fight against Netero, as that is the fastest he has ever shown to move. He launches over 1,000 attacks in under a minute, and by making some movement assumptions, we get his speed to be 1,667 meters per second. We found his durability by calculating the energy released from the Rose Bomb, and by taking account his distance from the epicenter and surface area, we received a value of about 3.9 times 10 to the 13 joules, or 9.3 kilotons of TNT. Unfortunately, we don't ever get to see his full strength within this form, so there are no calculated values, but it isn't really that big of an issue since we have his durability. Normally, when a character throws a strike, the energy of that strike falls within the range of their durability if they can withstand it. However, the inverse is not necessarily true unless explicitly shown otherwise. From this fact, we can infer that the value for his strength falls below this durability value since he nearly died from the Rose Bomb. So now we can compare and contrast these two characters to see who would win this fight. Immediately off the bat, All Might has an advantage in being able to throw long-range attacks, and Meruem not being shown to be able to do the same, which gives All Might a reach advantage. An advantage in Meruem's favor is his intellect, vastly outpacing All Might's, which normally is extraordinarily important. However, in this case, it won't really help that much, considering how far beyond All Might is to him in terms of ability, and at this point, Meruem only being a hand-to-hand fighter. All Might is about 6 times faster than Meruem, he is also over 182 times more durable, and if our inference is true, then the gap between the power of their strikes is even greater than that. There is no significant weakness that Meruem can thread the needle through to ensure his victory. Which means if we simulated 10 total fights, All Might would reign supreme 8, 9, or even all 10 out of 10 fights. It seems the Hunter Association should have sent out All Might instead of Netero to handle Meruem. But can the same be said for Rose Form Meruem? Rose Form Meruem is Meruem after having to absorb 2 of his royal guards to save his life from the Rose Bomb. In doing so, he gained abilities such as N, which shoots out light and can feel the thoughts and emotions of anyone who is touched by it, Metamorphosis, which can change the structure of his body, as well as a new long-range attack called a Rage Blast. While he does keep the same level of intellect as prior, abilities that we calculated previously have also grown. Calculating the energy that the Rage Blast was able to produce to destroy the plateau, we received a value of 4.85 times 10 to the 14 joules, or about 116 kilotons of TNT. Since he was also able to contain all that energy and withstand it with his body, it also falls within his durability range. In my Meruem power scaling video, I didn't know how to calculate his new speed, and I just left it as it once was, but now I think I found a way. We can find an estimation for this new power-up from dividing his new durability value by his old durability value, and doing so, we get a boost of 12.5 times stronger. Applying that buff to his original speed of 1,667 meters per second, we get his new Rose Form speed to be almost 21,000 meters per second. So now we have everything we need to analyze the second round for All Might versus Rose Form Meruem. All Might's previous advantage of ranged attacks is now gone since Meruem can do the same thing. Conversely, Meruem still remains much smarter than All Might, so he keeps that initial advantage. Their abilities have now come much closer, as All Might is only less than 15 times stronger and more durable than Meruem, but Meruem is over 2 times faster, as well as having his N ability and Metamorphosis ability to give him greater mobility and insights. With all this information, this fight is really dependent on how it would go down, since strikes from All Might would be lethal within the first few blows, but All Might has no way of reliably hitting him. Which means if this fight is short and Meruem decides to get up close, then it's likely he will eventually get hit a few times and All Might wins. However, taking into account Meruem's intellect, he might test out the waters first, realize this fact, and then draw out the fight by utilizing his speed and long-range attacks to wear him down little by little until he eventually wins. Kind of like All For One's winning strategy against All Might. If we simulated 10 fights, it's more likely than not that Meruem would win the majority of them, perhaps 6 or even 7 out of all 10 fights. Which means, in the second round, it appears All Might would be the one to fall to the king. But that is all I have for today. If you enjoyed, please make sure to like and subscribe, as that would mean everything to me, and comment below what you thought of my assessment, as I'd love to see it. With all that out the way, I hope you all have a great day, and peace out.